Good evening, this is BBC Newsline. The headlines this evening.
I'm at Orlock Point in County Down, where wind speeds of over 65 miles an hour were recorded today. We'll bring you storm coverage from across Northern Ireland.
A Storm Minister announces she's to challenge a court ruling that has stalled construction of the new A5 dual carriageway.
I certainly will not be found wanting in terms of the work that has gone into this, and will continue to go into this to ensure that we get this road built and get it built in the shortest possible time. Just today we've heard of another collision.
A body found in a burning car near Omagh at the weekend was that of a woman in her 30s. Police say they're not treating her death as suspicious. Relief as Queen's drops plans to more than double childcare costs for some students. And you have been warned. New rules come in for the collection of rubbish in Belfast.
There was no whitewash for the Lions in Sydney, but they leave Australia with their own piece of rugby history.
And Storm Florence has made for an unusually windy summer's day. But how's it looking for the rest of the week? I'll be back with your full forecast at the end of the programme.
Hello and welcome to BBC Newsline. I'm Chris Buckler and it's Monday the 4th of August, a day of high winds and stormy conditions across Northern Ireland. Amid all of the weather warnings, some flights had to be cancelled. A number of councils closed parks and forests, and some homes even experienced power cuts. And that was just some of the disruption caused by Storm Florence. Our reporter Cormac Campbell has been braving the weather.
Morning time and wind and wave batter the north coast. In Articlave, around 100 homes lost power as winds hit around 60 miles per hour. In Donegal, it was 65 miles per hour, with more homes and businesses losing power. At Downhill, tourists were staying out of the water, but were keen to take in the power of the sea.
Yeah, I'm Martin from Switzerland, and we're just on vacation traveling around on Ireland, and we just wanted to see what's going on during the storm. It was awesome just to feel the power of nature and here to see the waves.
I mean, I'm out Ballymoney direction and it's quite blowy, like, but it's nothing terrible. No trees being blown down just yet.
Although the rail line was operating, there was some disruption at airports. Roads were mostly clear, but there were some reports of fallen trees. In North Belfast, some residents of the Old Park area were evacuated after a tree fell on their home. By mid-afternoon, more people were venturing out.
Well, it's around 3:30 here in Portstewart, and as you can see, and probably hear, big wind and waves are still hitting the shore. But if you move up just to the promenade, you'll see people are still going about their business. Did you think it was going to be worse when you heard the forecast?
Yes, I did actually. I thought it was going to be a lot worse than this, but we were just going to have fun regardless of the weather. We don't mind.
We're actually there's a big Christian conference called New Horizon, and it's a big tent mission, and we did think it was going to blow away, but we're okay.
Survived, and we survived too.
Yeah.
So the tent has survived?
Oh,
it has survived, yeah.
Things will continue to die down this evening. After that, there'll be a clearer picture of what level of damage has been caused. Cormac Campbell, BBC Newsline on the North Coast.
Well, there is a yellow weather warning still in place until midnight. And our reporter, Eve Rosato, is live at Orlock Point, just outside Bangor in County Down. Eve, what's it like there?
It's actually lovely here now, Chris. It is breezy, I'm sure you can see that, but nowhere near as blustery as it was earlier today. The sun was shining until just a moment ago, it went behind a cloud. But right here where I'm standing, there were wind speeds of over 65 miles an hour recorded. Now, just to put that in context for the rest of Northern Ireland, there were 59 miles an hour recorded in Eglinton and McGilligan, 53 in Castledurg in County Tyrone. If you can cast your mind back to January when Storm Éowyn brought those incredibly intense winds, the highest winds we saw in Northern Ireland then were 90 miles an hour, and Met Éireann said the highest on the island were 114. That would have been in County Galway and County Donegal. So we haven't seen anything like that in Northern Ireland today. That said, there are people without power. In Northern Ireland tonight, there are 500 homes without electricity. It's much worse in the Republic of Ireland. ESB, who operate the electricity network there, are still trying to connect almost 3,000 people who don't have power this evening. Now, we've also heard from the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs. They have been asking people today not to go to forests and parks. That warning does remain in place for tomorrow in case those winds keep up. So if you are making plans, you want to head out tomorrow, it is best to check before you go anywhere. And Chris, as always, there is plenty of information on the BBC News NI website. People can get all that information there.
Eve, thank you very much. And of course, Ali will be here with a full forecast a little later in the programme. Now, Stormont's Infrastructure Minister says she's going to appeal a judgment that stopped the construction of the new A5 dual carriageway. The £1.7 billion project was given the green light by Stormont last year. It aimed to improve connections to Donegal and Londonderry by upgrading the road that starts at Auchnacoil at the border and travels up through Omagh and Strabane to new buildings. However, a court ruled in June that it didn't comply with targets to tackle climate change. Liz Kimmins says her staff has been working day and night on a challenge to that ruling. But it's still not clear what the grounds for that appeal are. Niall McCracken has been following developments.
The A5 is a major arterial route in Northern Ireland that connects the north to the west of the island. More than 50 people have died on the A5 during the last 20 years, and campaigners have long called for the road to be upgraded with a brand new dual carriageway. For years, farmers and landowners have raised concerns about the impact a new road would have on their land and the environment. In June this year, the courts agreed with them. The judge said the Department for Infrastructure's plans did not comply with climate change targets. Today at a press conference in County Tyrone, just beside the A5, the Minister announced that she was appealing the court's decision.
We were very confident going into that case that we had done as much as was possible to get this over the line. Unfortunately, that wasn't to be. But however, from the very next day, we were back to the drawing board, back working at this.
The Minister was also asked about how this appeal would be different if a court had already flagged issues around the road's compatibility with the Climate Change Act.
This was the very first test of the Act, and officials, and working very closely with officials in DAERA, have been looking at this and looking at how we can rectify that.
Members of the group Enough is Enough, who represent families who have lost loved ones on the A5, also gave their reaction.
There are too many people who have lost their lives needlessly. We're very, very optimistic that the Department will this time around ensure that every base is covered and that there'll be a successful appeal outcome.
Jim Hunter from Sam Mills almost died in a collision on the A5.
I just hope that the Minister has done her homework. If this is an appeal that they're sending up there and it gets knocked back again, they're running out of things to fix.
The Alternative A5 Alliance represent a number of concerned landowners, and they are the group that successfully brought the court challenge to the A5 road project in June. Following today's announcement, the group said it had nothing further to add at this time. With another potential court date looming, the destination still remains unclear for the long-delayed road project. Niall McCracken, BBC Newsline.
So as Niall says, it does look like there's another court battle ahead for Stormont. Our political correspondent, Jane McCormick, is with us. So we know the Minister is appealing, but we still don't know the grounds for that.
There's a good deal that we still aren't clear on, Chris. Aside from those specific grounds for appeal, we don't know when the appeal might be heard. Now, I'm told possibly October. We also don't know what the Minister will do next if her case fails. Now, the court ruling in June, of course, boiled down in part to legal environmental procedures not being followed versus what is in the greater public interest to get the road built to save lives. And I think to not take the appeal would have its own consequences for Stormont, given this is a flagship executive project. But an appeal also means more taxpayers' money being spent, and it also means even more delay. If the appeal isn't successful, there is one school of thought, which is that the Minister could try and bring emergency legislation to the Assembly to try and temporarily adjust climate change targets. But just imagine how controversial that would be, given how divided our political parties already are over the current climate change laws. Now, one politician today said to me privately that this shouldn't be a case of having either good climate change laws or good roads. But the problem, Chris, is that as it stands tonight, the road to achieving both is still far from obvious.
Jane, thank you very much indeed. You can find out much more on the background to the controversial A5 project and the original ruling right now on the BBC News website. The address is on the screen. It's bbc.co.uk/newsni. Now, the police say the death of a woman in Omagh at the weekend is not being treated as suspicious. She was in her 30s and her body was found beside a burning car on the outskirts of the town on Saturday afternoon. Our Southwest reporter, Elaine Mitchell, has the details.
There's an acrid smell in the air just off the Ryla Road. Scorched leaves signal the way to the spot where a woman died. Yesterday, police said they were treating this as arson. A car had been set on fire. But when emergency services attended, they discovered a woman's body beside the burnt-out Mitsubishi Lancer car. Police have appealed for anyone with any information to get in touch with them. At the scene today, remains of the car are visible. 2 distinct scorched areas, one with broken glass and what looks like car mirrors, and another downhill where remnants of tyres can be seen among the scorched vegetation.
Our community values safety above all, and this tragic death of a woman is deeply disturbing, and I believe that the sooner we have the answers to those questions, then the speculation will end and the family will be allowed to grieve.
This is a very remote spot, a grassy lane used mainly by farmers to access farmland. The police have concluded their forensic examinations, but their inquiries will continue into how a woman lost her life here. Elaine Mitchell, BBC Newsline, Omagh.
Now, Queen's University in Belfast has reversed a plan to more than double childcare fees for some students. There had been warnings that the rise could have left some people with families in a position where they had no choice but to give up their studies entirely. Our education correspondent Robbie Meredith has more.
Queen's University has its own creche for students with children, but those who used it were set to see their fees more than double, costing many hundreds of pounds extra a month. Students currently paying £28 a day for a full-time place were set to see that rise to £66 a day. Those paying £31 a day for part-time care were set to see that rise to £69 a day. The Students' Union warned those big rises could make childcare unaffordable for students with families and lead to them dropping out of university. That was a decision postgraduate student and parent Christian in Sunwoo was having to contemplate.
It's really made us look at our finances and think about, is this something that we can continue? Can we continue to actually, or can I continue to study and afford this? I imagine, we're in a slightly better position than many other kind of students and friends that are at the university. I wouldn't be surprised if many of them were considering dropping out altogether.
But the university has now U-turned on some of those fee rises. Students like Christian, whose children are already in their childcare and enrolled again for next year, will have their fees frozen at the current rate. In a statement, Queen's said they had listened to concerns from the small number of students affected and remained committed to supporting students to avail of the childcare service, underpinned by a £300,000 annual subsidy. The move on fees has been welcomed by the Students' Union.
We had students coming to us that had to decide whether they were going to continue their studies and have the childcare or leave their studies completely, and that would have been a real shame for us as a university to have lost this.
So good news for some student families, though those using the childcare for the first time from September will still pay the higher fees. Robbie Meredith, BBC Newsline.
Now, you might recognise this face. He was a senior police officer. In recent years, he's become a prominent media commentator. And now John Burrows has become a member of Stormont. He's replacing Colin Crawford as the Ulster Unionist Party's new MLA for North Antrim. And he insists that he's offering much more than his experience in his old uniform. With more, here's our political reporter, Brendan Hughes.
Folks, welcome to Operation Dembreaker today.
From policing to punditry.
What you really need is for every political party to say, let's get this sorted.
And now politics. It's a big step, but John Burrows hopes to bring bags of experience.
I'm more than just the uniform I used to wear, and even within the police, I was still myself, supporting communities, finding solutions with partners, and improving confidence by delivery. That's what I want to do as a politician.
The former PSNI officer joins an MLA team that includes 2 Army veterans, a former Royal Navy submarine commander and an ex-firefighter. So what does the UUP seem to love about men in uniform?
They bring qualities such as understanding the importance of teamwork, of leadership, of structure, all the things that you want in a political party.
High-profile recruits to politics have had mixed success. For every former TV news anchor, there's a Tim Collins.
They're not interested in international affairs, they're interested in potholes and hedges.
So does John Burrows have what it takes?
I think he has a tremendous amount to prove to people in a party who have taken risks for 25 years and see the vote continuing to fall.
With this place in recess for the summer, John Burrows has some time to learn the ropes. But in the 2 years until the next election, the former police officer's new beat will no doubt have its challenges. Brendan Hughes, BBC Newsline, Stormont.
Now, the first warnings have been issued in Belfast to households who overfill their bins. New rules mean bins in the City Council area will be tagged if their lids can't be closed. There's also going to be warnings for, among other things, not sorting your recycling properly, and repeat offenders, they won't have their bins emptied. Claire Graham has been out in the streets looking at what it all means for your waste.
Bin day. But look, there's a warning that next time this bin could be left unemptied. And this bin, and this one. What's changing? Here are some of the rules. No bin liners in any bins. That's bin liners, not bin bags. Keep bin lids fully closed. No extra bin bags beside the bins. And recycling items need to be in the right bin or box. Any incorrect items could mean no collection. Other councils already follow a similar policy.
Just in case of rats and all get into your bin, do you know what I mean? So I think they should be able to close the lid, because then it's untidy looking.
People not overflowing their bins or don't get them empty, that's their problem, you know what I mean?
It could end up bringing out more litter onto the streets, and it's not going to be helpful.
As long as they collect them in time, everything's okay, but sometimes they don't collect them, then, you know, bins create, rubbish creates vermin about the streets.
This is all about trying to stop the bins from overflowing and about keeping crews safe when they're tipping the bins into lorries. The labels are amber at the moment, but in a few weeks, that's all going to change. They're turning red. And if a bin is found to be breaching the rules, it'll be left on the curb unemptied. The council has been given the green light to go straight to red on the 29th of September. Claire Graham, BBC Newsline, Belfast.
And I can tell you nothing gets people more angry than bins. Well, despite today's blustery conditions, many young Highland dancers took to the city walls in Londonderry. In fact, they completely covered them as part of the Maiden City Festival. They'll be in competition during a host of events all this week. Here's our Northwest reporter, Kieran Turish.
Some of the finest Highland dancing dominated the opening of the Maiden City Festival in 2025. It's grown in popularity over the years, and this summer competitors from Harris in Scotland have travelled here to take part.
They've brought their dancers here to compete alongside our girls. They've had little pen pals, they've been sending letters forward and back, and today they're going to be starting performing together on these city walls. So real friendships, real connections, and these kids never met each other before this week.
The city's historic walls have come alive with characters from the siege era, telling yarns and stories to keep visitors engaged.
The walls are still very much underutilised, we think, and that's probably still a legacy of the Troubles, and you don't get a lot of people up on them. But during this week, we've seen over the years, you know, increasing numbers coming, and a lot of tourists coming.
I think it's very important that everybody sort of now learns the history of why the Apprentice Boys is there. It's just not about flags and drums and bands and this and everything else. It's the significance of what the Brave 13 did and what the people did during the 105 days of the siege.
For those taking part, it's not only about competing, but forming new friendships too.
Just like meeting all of the dancers, forming new friendships and everything, and just seeing the culture and everything around here.
It's been really good, meeting new friends, really fun.
We're pen pals. I'm from Londonderry. I'm from Harris in Scotland. And we're very excited to meet each other and dance together on the walls.
The Maiden City Festival runs all week ahead of the main Apprentice Boys demonstration this weekend. Kieran Turish, BBC Newsline, Derry.
Some great pictures there. Time for sport now, and the British and Irish Lions are on their way home after a series win down under. It proved to be a bit tough, though, at the weekend. Gavin Andrews is here. That is it for another 4 years.
Yeah, I feel a bit disappointed. We wanted a big finish. We didn't quite get it. It was still a special few weeks. There was no series whitewash for the Lions as Australia fought hard and came out on top in the third and final test in Sydney on Saturday. But despite that 22-12 defeat, Andy Farrell's side have made history as the Lions completed back-to-back series wins down under for the first time. Nigel Ringland, who has followed the Lions throughout the tour, has sent us this final report.
So a free play, chance to spin it. Suoliti on Peach, Dylan Peach! Oh, just not clicking, is it?
Australia may have prevailed on the night in Sydney. But the Lions, nevertheless, have made history, taking the series 2-1.
End of the field. The Lions win back-to-back in Australia.
With an Irishman named the man of the series.
Yeah, look, on a personal level, it's obviously a massive honour, but, you know, that aside, I think it's more about the series win for me. You know, the journey it's been from day one of linking up with these boys and getting to enjoy their company for essentially 8 weeks now, and we said we'll be having a reunion here in 12 years' time and making sure we're
saving up.
Yeah, but we're going to start a kiddie now and make sure we're all back here in 12 years to you know, celebrate this series win.
So not the finish that the British and Irish Lions wanted here in the rain in Sydney, but for Andy Farrell and his players, they've achieved what they set out to do, and that is win the series. And that, in recent times, hasn't happened all that often. Since 1974 in the Invincibles Tour to South Africa, led by Willie John McBride, this will only be the fourth time that the Lions will have returned home victorious. For the past 6 weeks, we've journeyed across this vast nation from Perth in the west to Canberra on to Adelaide, and then Brisbane, Melbourne, and finishing here in Sydney. Some people think that the Lions is an outdated concept, but for the thousands and thousands of supporters who have travelled halfway around the world to cheer on their team, there is still something romantic about touring in the Southern Hemisphere so far from home. The next stop is New Zealand in 4 years, but for the last time on this tour, Nigel Ringland for BBC Newsline in Sydney.
Safe home, Nigel. What a shift. Now, Ireland's women won their first warm-up match ahead of the World Cup later this month. They came back from 14-0 down to beat Scotland by 27 points to 21 in Cork on Saturday in an encouraging display.
It feels amazing. I have to say these girls have been unreal to me over the last 13 months. I definitely wouldn't be here without them, 14 even. But yeah, I'm just very proud we could pull out the performance in the end. I know we had a tough 20 minutes. I think that was getting the cobwebs off, but I have to say I'm very, very proud of the first cappers as well. That was a tough game to come into, and I thought they really performed today.
You know, it wasn't going to be perfect first game out after a summer off. It was what we wanted to see was shoots. We wanted to see that we could go after certain bits of the game and that we can get through the gears quite quickly on those. So as we know, next week we got Canada coming. The challenges don't, you know, they keep coming thick and fast now, and then hopefully that puts us in the in a good space to go over to England and attack the World Cup.
In Gaelic games, Dublin won the All-Ireland Ladies Senior Football Final, while Tyrone won their first title in 7 years with victory over Laois in the Intermediate Final. Here's Mark Seibot.
For much of a gripping Intermediate Final, there was very little to choose between Laois and Tyrone. But on the day, the difference would prove to be the red hands Aoife Horish.
Going for the goal, laying it off, and this time it's in the back of the net.
Late in the second half, the Northerners, with a second goal, eventually quelled the Midlanders. Katie Rose Muldoon ensuring that Tyrone would get their hands on the Mary Quinn Memorial Cup for the first time since 2018.
Their captain, Brona Devlin.
In the junior decider, Antrim did get off to a promising start, thanks to a well-taken Brona Devlin penalty. That would prove to be the game's only goal, and coming so early as it did, Louth had time to recover. They systematically overhauled Antrim to win in the end by 2 points, in what has been a bumper summer for the wee county. Mark Sidebottom, BBC Newsline.
Today's draw for the playoff phase of the UEFA Conference League has thrown up some intriguing possibilities. Linfield could face Shelbourne for a place in the lucrative group phase. The League of Ireland side knocked Linfield out of the Champions League, but we could now see a rematch. And Larne have been paired with either Shamrock Rovers or the Kosovan side Balcani. Finally tonight, Derry City lost ground in the League of Ireland title race with a 2-0 defeat last night away to Shamrock Rovers, who now have a 10-point lead at the top of the table. That's your sport tonight. Chris.
Gavin, thank you very much indeed. Now, we've already talked about the weather today at length, and even in those strong winds, you can see that Herbie was out and about enjoying himself on the beach in Ballycastle. I think others might be looking for the weather to calm down a little, however. Ali is here with the forecast. What's it looking like?
Hi, Chris. Well, I think Herbie looks pretty good, windswept on that beach there. He looks a lot better than what I would anyway. But yes, Storm Flores has brought an unusually windy summer's day with some blustery showers around. Just like here in Belfast, you might have looked out your window and it looked like this 1 second, and the next it looked a little more like this with clear blue skies. It's been very changeable all day, but as you can see, stormy seas below in Bangor in County Down. And I just had to include this photo of these for out watching the waves in Ballycastle towards the north coast, where some of the strongest gusts of the storm have been. Now, the Met Office's yellow weather warning is still in place until midnight, so that means there is still a chance of some damage and disruption, so do take care when out and about. But gusts of around 60 miles per hour have been recorded towards the north coast and in some other exposed areas like Orlock Point. Now, this evening, some rain will push in from the west that will stick around throughout the night and could be quite heavy at times. Now, it might be clearer towards the east coast, but overnight lows still quite mild, sitting at 11 to 13 degrees. And as Storm Flores moves on tomorrow, it'll be less windy, however, staying quite blustery, especially towards the north coast, where gusts could be heading around 40 to 50 miles per hour. Now, there will be some showers around in the morning time, but it will dry up into the afternoon, making way for some sunshine right across Ireland, and temperatures sitting around average for the time of year. And tomorrow night is going to be quite calm and settled under clear skies. It's going to be a dry night. And under the clear skies, temperatures will be a little cooler, sitting around 9 to 10 degrees, and there is the chance of some mist and fog towards the early hours as well. So as we head into Wednesday, it is set to be a better day, less blustery, of course, and more sunshine as well. So it's going to be a drier day altogether, and temperatures again sitting around average for the time of year. Chris, back to you.
Ali, thanks very much indeed. Some great dog pictures today, apart from anything else. That's it for now. I'll talk to you tomorrow on Good Morning Ulster over on Radio Ulster. And Tyler will be here with your late news at 10:30. Until then, have a good evening.